Hello, Star Trek fans, and welcome to Star Trek Prodigy, a RebingeIt podcast. My name is James.
And my name is Kim, and we're watching Star Trek Prodigy and talking about it here on the Talk Through Media network of podcasts. Hit it. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 1, Episode 9, A Moral Star, Part 1. This episode began streaming January 27th, 2022, although there was a brief kerfuffle when the episode apparently disappeared on Paramount Plus, and it caused quite a stir on Twitter.
Oh dear.
But it came back and everything was fine.
That's good. Did you notice as well, the thumbnail for this episode showed an extremely smug-looking diviner?
Well, they chose that for a reason, maybe to show us something about the episode, but also just because that seems like that's his resting jerk face. Resting smug face.
Smug is his natural look.
Precisely. And did you notice that the title of this episode, A Moral Star, is actually an anagram for Tars Lamora?
Oh. They are just having too much fun with the names of these episodes, aren't they?
Yeah, I carefully didn't put that in the notes because I didn't think you had figured that out. So I kept that one from you.
I thought it was to do with the moral choices that they were making in the episode.
Well, it is. And it's also an anagram. So that's actually pretty cool. Are you ready to get started with this episode?
One thing we probably should say about the last episode is that there was actually one Ferengi in it.
Yeah, but it wasn't a big part of the story. She just made a phone call.
Yeah, collect, I bet.
That's true. Well, then let's get down to this episode. Just like before, we'll do a walkthrough to discuss what we think about today's plot, and then we'll read out some feedback, and we'll play a clip from our kid correspondent, Mahi.
So let's get started. And there is no cold open this week.
Yeah, they're done with them now. They did it twice.
I still have my awesome opening, though. So we begin with Rok-Tahk in the crew berths, telling a story of how she fixed the temporal anomaly, and they all seem quite impressed. Gwyn says, "We make a good team, who'd have thought? They're all very upbeat, and there's a lot of laughing."
Which you know means we're in for a big fall. Can't be too happy on TV.
Yeah, exactly. Dal is leaning against the partially built dreadnought. And this makes me very happy because they've actually gone down to the cargo bay and found that thing before it did any damage.
Yeah.
And he says they can never let their guard down. In leaning on the dreadnought, he knocks it over and the head falls off, rolls across the floor, and the red eyes light up.
And Rok-Tahk panics and she shouts, "We let our guard down!"
Yes.
That was adorable.
Well, this triggers a holo recording, and a giant diviner head appears, all in red.
And he says, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You are my only hope."
You might be crossing genres there, but that is what popped into my head as well. Well, the giant floating hologram head delivers an ultimatum to the crew. If they do not return the ship, then the miners on Tars Lamora will pay the price, and Rok-Tahk calls him a monster.
I notice here he says pay the price instead of he'll kill them all. I think maybe because this is a kid's show, he's giving more of a veiled threat than an actual threat.
Yeah. And he also appeals to my progeny, saying, "Come back to me."
My progeny, come back to me.
You've been wanting to do that voice since we watched the episode, haven't you?
I can't say anything he says any other way. It's so ridiculous. And then even while we're watching the show and he'll say something and I just repeat it.
Yes.
Because
yes, she does.
Every time he says, my progeny.
Yeah, that is a trigger for you.
It's so ridiculous.
Gwyn reacts to this message by stabbing her arm sword through Dreadnought's head, shutting off the holo projection. She does the blue lines thing on her head here. Quite a nice effect.
It looks like she's not going to put up with this emotional blackmail. It was very dramatic when she stabbed the thing.
That's what I thought. In the way he said it as well, I'm like, oh, he is just nasty.
My progeny.
She seems pretty annoyed by this and walks out not saying a word. The others all look on shocked because she just straight arm sword stabs it through the head.
I noticed they're in the crew quarters, right, with all the bunk beds everywhere. It's totally cleaned up from what we had last week with Rok-Tahk when there was just stuff everywhere. So obviously the cleaning crew came through.
Didn't they have some robots for that?
Picked up after them.
Maybe it's showing something about the crew that they're becoming a little bit tidier.
Well, maybe once Rok-Tahk wasn't there by herself, they all cleaned up. So now we're in the briefing room, or maybe it's the ward room, not sure.
Could be the party room.
Rok-Tahk says that the unwanted, or the orphans, the people the diviner kidnapped, that they got into trouble because of them, because they escaped.
That includes the cat.
She says they need to go back, and Gwyn says they cannot give her father this ship.
I really like this about Gwyn. She's the first one to just be adamant about this and say, no, you're not giving him the ship. I think it's very personal to her at this point.
Well, it is personal. He left her behind.
Well, yes, there is
Or he
that.
tried to. He tried to take the ship and just leave her.
Yeah.
And I think she took that very personally. And she's also maybe on a bit of a mission to try to make up for what she did by allowing the things that happened to the unwanted while she just stood by.
Right.
Dal says the Protostar can't fit all of the miners anyway, even if they went back and tried to rescue them all. Jankum says they can't stage a rescue mission. They can barely save themselves, which is true. And he says that they should contact the Federation, but Gwyn tells them that by the time the Federation gets there, it'll be too late. Zero points out they have one jump with the protodrive. Okay, we still haven't talked about how long it takes to recharge, but it seems like it's recharged now and they have the ability to use it. I think they kind of skipped over that.
Yeah, I wish they talked about that a bit more. I would like to have known more on its recharge cycle and how long it takes and how they do it.
Right. They have a choice to jump to the Federation or to Tars Lamora and surrender the ship for the lives of the miners. This is the moment where Dal raises his hand and said, okay, show of hands. Anybody know anybody on Tars Lamora?
Yes. His reaction to the Kobayashi Maru.
Yes, exactly.
Good reference to that episode.
I don't know. I think at this point they should just stop taking the diviner's calls and just get on with their lives. I mean, he's just annoying.
Wow.
Every time he calls,
Harsh.
it's something terrible. But I only joke because hashtag save vacation.
Absolutely. You got to go back, even if it's just for the cat.
Yeah, but Gwyn very sensibly points out, how can we trust him? Even though he's saying that he'll trade the ship for the miners, can you really trust him? And, you know, he's certainly given us no reason to trust him. So I like that she's being sensible here.
Right. And I think the diviner would favor this plan because with the ship back and the heroes of the show all returned to Tars Lamora, it would be much easier to destroy the asteroid and get rid of any witnesses to what he did.
Totally. It's a mustache-twirling villain kind of thing to do.
Yeah, it's exactly what he'd do.
Well, they all look to Dal, who calls on Janeway. Janeway says she doesn't envy his position, and it's only the captain's decision to make. So apparently Dal is still the captain.
Yep.
Shockingly, it's Jankum who jumps up on the table and says, going back for the miners is a bad call, but he's in.
Yeah.
All the others agree, and uplifting music plays to a big crescendo. And Zero shouts, hoot, hoot, which seems to be Zero's new thing, a new way of celebrating, because it happens a couple of times in this episode.
Right.
Jankum turns to Dal, and the music just drops, which was a nice dramatic touch.
Yes.
Dal doesn't say anything. He just kind of sighs, and he leaves the room. The others all stand up, shocked, and Gwyn calls after him.
The second time in the episode, they've looked at one of the others just shocked.
Yep.
So we go to the captain's quarters, and Gwen just walks in.
Like there's no lock on the door.
Yeah. They didn't even have the, double beep thing that it would do for Picard.
No, she didn't ring the bell. She just walked right in.
Gwyn tells Dal he wanted to be in charge, and now with a tough decision, he runs away. Are you scared, or are you selfish, she asks.
Seems a little harsh. Maybe he just needs a quiet moment alone to make a decision.
Yeah, this is a big deal, especially if he's started to learn that maybe he shouldn't think about himself and consider the rest of the crew.
Yeah, he shouldn't make a knee-jerk decision on something that affects their lives. Right. So she should be happy that he wants to think about it.
From what we've previously seen with Dal, this would be a little bit unexpected that he would be thinking about it.
Right.
Ultimately, Dal says, if it was up to him going back, he'd just go. But he can't risk losing us. And then gets embarrassed when Gwyn looks at him and he says, I meant us, the crew.
I didn't understand this line. What was I missing?
Okay, I think because Dal likes Gwyn on a personal level. And he was embarrassed that she looked at him like he was telling her that...
Us, as in the two of us.
Yes. And being embarrassed, he jumped to, I mean all of us, the whole crew. So it was both true and true.
Not brilliantly written.
Yeah.
Totally lost on me.
Well, that's what I took from it.
Didn't get it.
But I did like how Dal was prepared to do this if it wouldn't risk the other members of the crew. He'd go back to save the others on Tars Lamora.
He mentioned, too, that he's being asked to go back to a place that he tried to escape so many times.
Yeah.
And going back this time, they might all be trapped there forever. So he was really thinking seriously about everybody's safety, but he was also thinking about his own history. I think it was legitimate for him to go away and ponder.
Yes. He outlines to Gwyn that they have to go into hostile territory, outnumbered, and trade with someone that they can't trust, and then, if they survive, escape with all the miners without a ship. He says, this is our Kobayashi Maru.
Nice.
And here we see Dal has been learning. He says, it can't be one of my half-baked plans, not with all of our lives on the line. There we go.
Yeah, there's the first sign of maturity. That's the one thing he learned in the Kobayashi Maru.
Right. Gwyn replies, "You're not alone. We're in cat boots now," which is a reference to her mispronunciation of cahoots from the first episode. Also, it ties in nicely as it's cat boots to save the cation.
Save the cation. And at this moment, they played the little bit of the Star Trek theme to tug at our heartstrings, and it totally worked.
Oh, completely. Adding the music in there just perfectly matched the moment.
They use the music so much like the movies. I know we've said it before, but anytime there's some kind of a dramatic shift or a stepping up point into the next thing, and it's the hero move, they play a little bit of that music, and it's super effective.
So they set about working on a plan, and we have a montage of them planning and starting work and building whatever they were up to. At one point, Janeway looks at Gwyn, who is working on something on a console, and comments, "That's one heck of an upgrade."
Yeah, but they don't tell us what it is.
No.
It's the secret plans.
Yes. They're not giving anything away. So they complete their build, and Zero says, "Murph, my indestructible friend, this may just work." But, as you said, Kim, you don't quite see what they're building.
No, when you go back and rewatch the episode after you know what's coming, you pick up on all the little things that they were showing. But yeah, your first time through, you have no idea what's going on, which is cool.
Yeah. They're doing this in the cargo bay, and Janeway is watching from a walkway, drinking coffee above.
Yeah, a hologram drinking coffee is endlessly funny.
Holographic coffee.
That's right. Now we go to the captain's quarters, and Dal looks at a uniform in a drawer and smiles.
Yes.
And then we cut to the bridge, and we see Dal come in a Starfleet uniform. One we haven't quite seen before. It's sort of blue and grays. It's hard to tell if that top part is maybe a little bit purpley, like lilac, but it looks a bit gray. Janeway comments, "Well, you clean up nicely." And then Gwyn joins him, and she's got on the new uniform. And one by one, everybody comes in the new uniform. And Janeway says, "I feel underdressed." And she magically switches from the classic Janeway red Voyager uniform into this new style.
I do like the new style.
It's cool, but it's all the same. It was funny through this whole episode when they would show it. It almost looked like there were wrinkles in the top, like they were trying to work the texture of the fabric into the animation. And that was sort of different, I thought. Yeah. So Zero here isn't wearing a uniform. I think you thought maybe they just changed their colors or got a new paint job to sort of match the color scheme.
Yeah, it looked like he just had a paint job. He just sprayed the colors in the uniform onto his outer shell.
Yeah. At this point, we're all ready to implement our plan, but Janeway stops them and she gives an awesome Starfleet captain speech. She says, "You're risking everything on a seemingly impossible mission to save others, to bring hope to a hopeless cause. Nothing's more Starfleet than that." And they have just, again, the perfect music to build the drama, pull on those heartstrings.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Very good captain moment.
I kept on thinking of Captain Kirk. Once again, we save civilization as we know it.
Oh, a great line towards the end of Star Trek 6.
Yes.
But, that was at the end. We got to say stuff like that at the end of the mission after we save civilization.
Yeah, but Starfleet captains always live in the positive.
Yeah, and we just like speeches.
They now go to maximum warp and turn on the Protostar. And we get some more great music and animation as they very colourfully jump to proto-warp. And then they jump out of proto-warp into what looks like an asteroid field. The Diviner is watching the Protostar approach, and Dreadnought deactivates the cloak. Then Tars Lamora reappears in all its sinister glory.
And the Diviner says something like, "And you thought she wouldn't come." He's so impressed with himself.
He really is.
We see the mining operation on the surface again, and the Cation appears, the pink cat. She takes off her helmet, and you can see her cute pink face and her cute whiskers. And she actually sort of smiles, or I don't know, you see her fangs. It's hard to tell with a cat if they're smiling or showing you their teeth.
Yeah.
But when she sees the ship, that's the reaction she has. So #save the Cation continues.
Indeed.
Then as Dal is giving orders, Jankum at one point says, "Cargo transpo is a go-go." And then he changes to formally say, "Oh, cargo transporter ready." I mean, even he's being super serious, but I think he should just be himself. Yes. I like the is a go-go.
Yeah, I think that should be Jankum's style of saying things.
Totally. In the cargo bay, Zero says to Gwen, "I'm worried if I'm captured, your father will use me as a weapon again."
That's exactly what he would do. There's no question about that.
I think that's a legitimate concern. Outside, you see the Rev 12 has locked onto the Protostar with a tractor beam, and Dal tells the crew, "Everyone, you know what to do." I wish we knew what we were going to do, but they seem to know.
Well, that's the mystery of the episode.
Yeah.
So we see an outside shot of the Protostar preparing for a landing with the Diviner and Dreadnought waiting on a landing platform. Very dramatic music is playing and just great animated shots of the ship.
How did they not just fire torpedoes or phasers or anything as they were landing that ship with the two of them right in front of them?
Yeah, that is kind of a good point of...
Just solve this problem right now.
Yeah. Jankum, fire full spreader photon torpedoes.
At least take the robot out.
That would be fair. So this is the image we see in the thumbnail. The Diviner is standing on the landing platform with the most super smug look on his face.
Yeah.
This is Olympic quality smugness.
Totally.
Back in the mine, we see the small Cation running along a pipe in her Jedi robes. I think she's one of the younglings who escaped.
Yeah.
And she reaches an opening where she can look down on the Protostar and the landing pad.
Yeah, she's either wearing Jedi robes or some kind of bathrobe.
It does look like that, yeah.
It looks comfy, but not exactly something you'd want to wear working in a mine.
The Diviner and Dreadnought walk towards the Protostar, surrounded by an army of the Enforcer bug robot things. Very dramatically, the boarding ramp lowers and the crew walk down, with Dal warning the Diviner not to try anything as he's instructed Janeway to activate the self-destruct mechanism.
Why could Janeway activate the self-destruct if she only has access to, what was it? Insignificant systems?
Non-critical
That's
systems.
not the right word. Non-critical systems. I mean, she couldn't do anything, but she can blow the ship up. Maybe he's bluffing. Okay.
Yeah, he's bluffing. I just think they could have got a little bit closer to Dreadnought and the Diviner and actually dropped the landing ramp on them. That would also have worked.
Something. Yeah, we just brought the ship in there and handed it over. Isadal asks, if you take the ship, how are they supposed to get off the asteroid? Great question. And the Diviner tells them, this asteroid is all you deserve. He's so mean. I didn't even quite know what his problem was here.
Yeah.
What does he have against these people?
Yeah, exactly. He's got some real superiority complex going on here.
Yeah, he is a bummer.
Yeah.
When he sees Gwen in the Starfleet uniform, he is really upset.
Yes.
And he says, do you have any idea what that uniform represents? She says, a commitment to strive for a better future. And he says, lies and hypocrisy. Which is something that you and I have been saying around the house now for about 24 hours.
Yes, we have.
And Gwen replies, oh, you know all about that.
Burn.
It really was a burn. He did not like that. And he growls.
Yes. Gwyn is just not taking his crap anymore.
She is not. And as we should have expected, he says, the terms have changed. My progeny comes with me. And they all gasp. How are they shocked that he was going to change the plan at the last second? And Gwen really looks shocked, her eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Dal protests and says that's not part of the deal. Oddly enough, Dreadnought agrees and says it would be a mistake to bring her with us. He does not like the progeny.
No, well, Temporal Anomaly Dreadnought called her the Diviner's greatest mistake.
That's right. So the Diviner says the only mistake was not telling her the truth to begin with, which is now finally getting interesting because what is this truth? We have been
Yes.
waiting for this truth.
Right.
Gwen says that she'll go with him if he gives the Rev 12 to the other crew. The others protest, of course. Dal tries to stop her, but Gwen says, when he took all of you, I stood by and did nothing. I need to make it right. She's right about that.
Yeah. The Diviner appears to be honoring the deal and makes Dreadnought shut down all the security droids and the ankle bracelets of the miners. And they cut to the leg shackle on the Cation turning off. So that's another good thing.
Yeah.
Dal asks Gwyn, are you sure? And she hugs Dal and tells him to take care of the others.
Oh,
The Diviner tells Gwyn to remove her Starfleet badge, that vile thing,
that vile thing.
and he symbolically drops it on the floor and crushes it under his foot. Then he, Gwyn, and Dreadnought board the ship. I think they need to make those badges a little bit sturdier. That seemed to break a little bit too easily.
It did, and there didn't seem to be anything inside. There were no electronics, nothing.
Oh.
I wondered if maybe that was an indication that it was a fake, or if we're supposed to believe they just work so magically with teeny tiny things on the inside.
You know, they did do a cut back to the badge a second time.
They did.
With just the bits of it on the floor.
Yeah,
So maybe that is a deliberate hint. That isn't her only Starfleet badge.
maybe.
All the while this is happening, the Cation is watching from a high vantage point, which seems exactly right for a cat.
That's true. Watching from a high shelf.
Yes. I was hoping, however, at this point, we'd find out the cat was actually an undercover Starfleet operative. Like, she's a member of Section 31 and had been waiting for this moment to call in a Starfleet armada. Or maybe she could be Section 47, the super secret Starfleet security service, made up entirely of cats.
Can you imagine if a fleet of cats came in to save the day? You and I would have turned into Zero. Hoot, hoot. That would have been funny. It really would have been funny if Vacation had turned out to be Section 31. Look, still could be. We don't know at this point.
Oh, that's true. Wow. I would pay good money for that.
I did send the question to Mahi. Will we save Vacation or will Vacation save us? Maybe she still will.
Oh, that would be awesome. So we close the scene with Jankum asking, why does it feel like we've lost? And Dal replies, because we did the right thing.
On board the Protostar, the diviner sits in the captain's chair, and Janeway tells him, that doesn't belong to you. He tells Dreadnought to override this Starfleet nuisance and changes Janeway into a new, scary-looking version of Janeway, where she's got an all-black uniform. Her coloring is sort of green. Her eyes are this shining green. Even her hair has changed color.
Yeah.
She looks like total zombie Janeway. It's super upsetting.
Perhaps this is the mirror Janeway. I would so love to see a mirror universe Janeway. I just love to know what that character was like.
There have been some pictures lately of Mirror Janeway. I don't know if you have seen that on Twitter, because the Janeway character is now appearing in the Star Trek Online game.
Ah.
But yeah, there were no Mirror episodes in Voyager, and we haven't had any yet in Prodigy, but the new Star Trek world loves a mirror, so let's see what happens.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's where the diviner is from. Who knows?
She's Emperor material, that's all I can say.
Agreed. The Protostar takes off, and the diviner orders, target the Rev 12 power generators. Leave them with nothing.
I'm going to laugh every time you do that voice.
This is why you can't trust an arch-villain. Of course he's going to do this. Gwyn protests, saying, without the power generators, they'll lose the atmospheric shields. He replies, I promised them a ship, but not their lives. Gwyn says, no, you wouldn't. But of course he would.
Yes.
Come on.
That's standard operating procedure for someone like him.
No, completely.
Everybody below him is disposable.
Ugh. He uses the phasers to destroy the generators on the Rev 12, and the crew has to run away from falling debris. And then the artificial gravity goes out, and they end up all floating in air, holding on to each other. On the Protostar, Gwyn says to the diviner, you're a monster. And then he orders the ship to leave. Dal watches as the ship leaves and jumps to warp. Everybody else is sort of screaming as they're floating away in space, but he's watching very calmly.
Yeah. On the bridge of the Protostar, Gwyn asks, where are they going? And asks for the truth. Why is the ship so important? The diviner gives her a speech about how it's more than a ship, it's their salvation.
It's our salvation.
He left her behind because he was blinded by duty. He now realizes that she's part of him, and he cannot do this without her.
Blinded by duty.
He also left out the bit about, you're actually a clone, but he can always let her know later.
I don't know why you're so hung up on that. What difference does it make? He still raised her to be a little evil mini-me. It doesn't make any difference if she's a clone. And maybe in the future, that's just like having kids. Same thing.
I can't get over the clone thing.
I've noticed.
Question here. Do you think he meant he actually needs her for something specific? Like, he has to sacrifice her to achieve his goals?
Oh, geez.
Like, she's just another disposable tool.
I don't know.
Because he says that he can't do this without her.
Yeah.
He's not emotional. I saw that as, I need you to go somewhere where I could get killed.
I guess that could be the reason. We don't know enough about his secret, obviously, to know what the real answer is. But he could also be thinking about, he said something like they're the last of their kind.
Yeah.
And if he was intending to use the Protostar to go somewhere to try to save their kind, then he might be thinking that he won't live long enough to do it just on his own, and that she would need to carry on.
Yeah.
But usually these villains are all about preserving themselves and trying to find ways for themselves to live longer. So I wonder if he has a plan to use her essence somehow to extend his own life.
Ooh, that would be a perfect one. Gwyn says she wants to know more, and they do the blue telepathy thing where the lines on both of their heads light up. And the diviner says, you're hiding something.
You're hiding something.
He stands up, knocking Gwyn to the floor, and says, you're stalling.
You're stalling. Come on.
then orders Dreadnought to engage the proto-warp immediately. Dreadnought tells him the proto-core is not responding. The computer says it's not on the ship.
And Gwen sarcastically says, lose something?
Burn 2. The diviner goes to engineering and sees the proto-core is missing.
Dun, dun, dun. They took the proto-core.
Yes, they did.
Back on the planet, Dal tells the others, you can drop the act. He's gone. And everybody stops screaming. Turns out the crew have it all under control and were expecting this. They'd planned for it all except for maybe the loss of gravity, but they seem to still think it's okay. We also discover that the Zero they have with them is not Zero. It's Murph hiding inside of a fake shell, and inside of Murph is the proto-core because he's indestructible.
Didn't I suggest that last week?
100% you suggested that last week.
I just hope he doesn't barf it up, because that wouldn't be good for anyone.
And he does do that all the time,
Yeah.
so they better be prepared for that. Well, we learned Zero beamed down earlier and brought emergency evacuation thruster packs. Totally cool.
Exactly.
Rock and Jankum go to the Rev 12 to get power back online. I don't know how they're going to do that since they destroyed the power generators, but I'm sure they have an idea. Maybe they're going to use the proto-core.
Well, they're the two-person engineering crew.
Yep.
They should be able to fix anything.
Yep. Dal and Zero head off together to get the miners back to the ship. Dal says, I just hope Gwen can buy us enough time for this crazy plan to work. And they jet off towards the mining tunnels. The end.
They cut the ending right the part where I want to see more.
Well, that's the point of the cliffhanger. I really hope we don't have a giant cliffhanger at the end of the next episode before we go into the stall for season 2.
I honestly have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, me either. Okay, let's talk about what stood out. Number 1 item, vacation.
Absolutely the Cation.
Oh my goodness, thank God we came back for the Cation. And now I really hope the Cation saves them. I'm excited for that.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, this is Baby Yoda levels of cuteness.
I keep tweeting, #save the Cation, and then I noticed the creators of the show did a #save the Cation this week, so maybe they've just been waiting in the wings.
Ah, Section 31.
Maybe.
Cation operative.
The other thing that stood out was when Janeway switched to Zombie Janeway. I did not like that.
Oh, yes. Do you think the changing coloring was kind of matching the skin tone and the look of the Diviner and Gwen? That's something I thought looking at it a second time.
I had a couple of thoughts about color. One of them was the way color would drain away from people when they would get assimilated by the Borg. That was the first thing that kind of went through my head. And the other thing that went through my head, since we talked about the mirror universe earlier, is that colors are different in the mirror universe.
Ooh.
At least on Discovery, they talk about people who come from that universe, their eyes are more sensitive to light. And maybe the Diviners from the Mirrorverse? I don't know. But those are the two things that went through my mind.
Jankum didn't get a lot of good lines this week, but he did get to call everyone a dum-dum again.
I love it when he calls them dum-dums. I don't know why.
And he was ready to jump into any crazy plan.
He was all in right away.
Yeah. And the music, again. And when you say cinematic, that's a perfect description for the way that they use the music. It fits with the action and the use of the Trek theme again when Dal turns that corner and says, we need an actual plan.
Yep.
Putting that theme in when you have a pivotal moment, they're telling you in an audible way that this is a change. This is something that's happening.
Right. Another thing that really stood out for me is the Diviner's got a secret. I need to know what the secret is. He was about to tell Gwen, but then didn't do it when he realized that she was hiding something.
Yeah.
But there's some more to this whole story that we don't know.
Oh, absolutely. I really want to know more. They are keeping us right on the edge.
Yeah. I wonder how much they're going to tell us with only one episode left in the season.
Yeah.
I hope they tell us enough.
Enough to make the cliffhanger for the next season work.
Don't leave me on too big of a cliff.
Yeah.
That does not make me happy.
You're still scarred by Best of Both Worlds, right?
Back in the day when you couldn't just move to the next episode.
Yeah.
You had to wait for months.
Another thing, Murph seems to be very much like a cat.
Yeah, Rock Talk was walking around holding, petting, and it seems like they have Murph cooing a lot.
Yeah.
So not purring exactly, but Rock Talk certainly treats Murph like a cat.
Oh, yeah. And Murph's totally bonded to Rock Talk.
Oh, completely. And it certainly stood out for me that the ship was a lot cleaner this week than it was last week. So there's some kind of housekeeping service that came through. Maybe they got little robots. Or maybe once the rest of the crew came back, they were like, okay, we got to clean up this pigsty.
Maybe that's something they picked up from their Starfleet training to try and clean up a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, something that stood out to me is I still keep on thinking of Star Wars parallels here.
Yeah.
The holo message, the asteroid field, the Cation, who I think is dressed like a Jedi youngling. I don't know if it's just me or whether it's too much of Star Wars filters over into my watching of other shows.
I think it's difficult when you have these sort of family-friendly but sci-fi shows to have no crossovers at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely still some Star Wars-y things going on.
Yeah, a feel.
Yeah.
There's just a feel there.
Yeah. I didn't think there was enough Janeway in this episode. There was quite a bit of Janeway in the last episode, so I guess they cooled her off a little bit here. She did get to do a coffee cup toast, though, with Zero and Rock, but when they showed all their coffee from the top, it was pink. Who drinks pink coffee?
It's space coffee.
I guess holographic coffee.
Holographic coffee is whatever color you want.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to character development. So what did we learn in this episode?
Murph can contain a protostar.
I mean, that's amazing.
We've seen weirder stuff in Star Trek, so I'm just going to roll with it. But I can guarantee there are going to be some people complaining about that.
Yeah, but let's not forget this is a kid's show. And it really would make sense that the small, seemingly vulnerable creature is the one that's really the toughest.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm starting to think about the Cation in a different way from this perspective. Let's just not lose sight of that fact.
Very good observation. If we look at Dal, he's now definitely following a leadership path.
I definitely think we started to see that at the end of the Kobayashi episode. And we've seen it ever since in little bits and pieces. But here, he was prepared to go on this mission on his own.
Yeah.
But knew that he couldn't and knew that he was making a decision that risked everybody's life. And so he's being a lot more cautious now. And he even seemed a few times in the episode when they were all together, he was like a part of it and laughing and just being a good member of the team. So you're definitely seeing him grow into that role.
Yeah.
I think he's finally figuring out that not only can he not do everything on his own and have all the answers, he doesn't have to.
Right.
He's got other people he can rely on. I think what happens from here with Gwen is important.
Yes.
Because if she sticks with him, follows whatever their plan is, and, sticks up for him and helps the team, I think that's going to be a really important bond for the two of them to build on.
Yeah.
But if she double crosses him, that's going to be bad.
I don't see her double crossing him.
I don't either, but I think it's entirely possible that she'll be forced into some kind of a decision that it will make it seem to the team like she is double crossing them, even though she's doing something to save them.
Ooh, that's a good storytelling trick.
Certainly something that happens in movies.
Yeah.
Where the character does something where they make a giant sacrifice, but nobody else knows that it's a sacrifice and think that they actually betrayed them in some way. So it could happen.
Yeah, agreed. And he also says goodbye to that old scruffy outfit and hello to some spandex.
Yeah, he got out of the capri pants and into the spandex.
He kept the boots, though. I thought that was funny.
That was peculiar. They must be great boots.
Yeah, maybe they're collectible ones.
Probably. We also showed here Gwen completely taking responsibility for her earlier role as the evil villain sidekick.
Yes.
When she said, I stood by and did nothing before, I have to do this.
Yeah, and she's prepared to risk her life to buy them time on the asteroid.
Right.
I also liked how she was the first to say, we cannot give him this ship.
Yep.
Because looking at it from a really negative perspective, the Diviner could always just make another clone.
My progeny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Plenty more clones in the vat.
Well, speaking of the Diviner, we had a lot more Diviner than we've seen, but we didn't exactly develop him. We just learned even more about him as a monster.
Yeah, and how he has just the most annoyingly smug look on his face.
Yes, he does. Well, anything about the ship this week?
Well, there's a couple of things we could bring up. So the protocore is removable.
Yeah, we didn't know that.
And the second thing is, I would like to have known more about how it recharges.
Yeah, they're going to have to tell us eventually.
Yeah.
Although they're pretty careful on this show about not telling us times.
Yeah.
Like hours, days, times, whatever. but hopefully we'll learn.
I think from a technology standpoint, that would be kind of interesting.
I wonder if it's because we don't have a home base.
Yeah.
When the Earthlings from Starfleet are talking about time, they're used to what years mean on Earth. And when we watch Deep Space Nine and they talk about days and years, it's based on a 26-hour day. And so they have a home base of what time means. Here, all of these crew members are from somewhere different. So what's their scope of time?
That's a very good point.
I would hope that the ship is tracking time somehow. Like they must have a clock.
Star dates.
Well, you got to have more than a star date if you're going to say, let's have lunch at, X o'clock.
Rather than reading a full star date back.
Yeah, you're not going to give back the whole time. Yeah, exactly. So there's got to be a clock somewhere.
Right.
Let's move to the next section and hear from our kid correspondent, Mahi. And she's going to tell us how this works as a kid's show.
It was a fun episode. Del seems to have worked out a great plan with the help of the crew and not a half-baked plan alone. The team seems to be following their plan and they are all doing their part very well. I love the scene where they all dressed up in Starfleet uniform.
Were you surprised they hid the Protostar in Murph?
Yes, I was surprised that they hid the Protostar in Murph. Murph is indestructible. Seems like a great idea.
What secret is the diviner keeping?
There could be many secrets. Maybe he needs to steal the Protostar for somebody else to save Gwen's life. Or maybe he wants all the power. Or maybe he needs the star for his dying galaxy to help his family and friends.
Will they get the ship back next episode or will they make us wait till season 2?
I think the crew will fit the Protostar into the other spaceship, rescue the miners, and then rescue Gwen in the next episode. I hope we don't have to wait until season 2. That would be too long. I also hope Captain Janeway is back to her normal self soon.
Will they save the cat or the cat save them?
I think the cat will save them. The cat has seen them already. None of the crew knows about the cat but Gwen, who is on the spaceship with the diviner. I love the cat's braids. They are so pretty.
Thank you, Mahi.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for all of that, Mahi. I agree with many things she said, including I don't want to wait till season 2 for all the big things to happen. And I also hope that she's right about the Caitians saving them. I'm not sure that the diviner's secret plan is going to be anything that's good for Gwen, but I like the way she thinks.
So continuing into the feedback section, we have Brian from Colorado.
Brian said, I liked Immoral Star, but it was overall a less satisfying Prodigy episode for me compared with the previous 2 weeks, so I rate it 8 out of 10 new Starfleet uniforms. I did like those uniforms, although I wasn't sure if they were supposed to be only for cadets or also for officers too. Part of my overall lack of enthusiasm about this episode probably stems from the fact it was a 2-parter without any resolution to the plot lines.
Yeah.
I'm sure after next week I may feel differently after seeing the whole story. The other reason this episode wasn't among my favorites is because it had more to do with the diviner/Star Wars side of the story and thus incorporated fewer Star Trek elements.
So it wasn't just me.
I'm curious what plan the crew has up its sleeve to save the miners and get back their ship. I'm also wondering how the Protostar drive possibly fits inside Murph, and in turn, how Murph plus drive fits inside Zero. Did they shrink the drive somehow? I don't get it. On balance, I'm really happy with the direction the show has gone, and it's overall been getting better and better with each installment. Maybe they'll stick the landing, and I'll think Season 1, Episode 10 next week cements that trend.
All good points, and interesting to see that it wasn't just me in the Star Wars thing.
Yeah, I think he makes a lot of good points, like he does every week when he sends his feedback. I wondered, too, about how did Murph actually fit with the protocore inside of him, inside of the fake Zero outfit. That's another one of those things where you don't notice it the first time through, that version of Zero has no legs and that Jankum is constantly holding on to him. And so then, of course, you learn later, well, he doesn't have legs because it's Murph. It's not actually Zero. But I think that's a legitimate question. Maybe things do shrink when they get inside of Murph.
Murph also has gravity field, so can compress things. That would be something.
It's possible. I also agree that when it's a cliffhanger, it just feels less satisfying.
Yeah.
As I frequently do when something ends with a cliffhanger, I shouted jerks at the television. I don't like it. I want to know what happens.
Yeah.
Give me the rest of the story. So I am right with Brian here.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, that was all the feedback we got this week. So let's move on to the Star Trekkiness of the episode.
Oh, well, crazy dangerous plan.
A crazy dangerous plan that we don't know all the details of.
Yes.
I love it when it's a secret plan.
Yeah, I kept on thinking of Deep Space Nine and Blood Oath, where Dax fixes their plan, but it was still crazy dangerous.
Well, that was sort of a suicide plan. I think you could compare it to many Klingon crazy plans.
Yeah.
Where they will lay out all the complicated things they have to do and how they have to kill 100 soldiers or whatever to get to the thing that they're going to do. And while everybody else is going, this plan is crazy, the Klingons are like, yeah, but at the end, think of the great song we're going to write.
Yes. This could be a whole opera.
This could be a whole opera, exactly. And it's going to be sung by a cat.
I think this fits into that. I would agree.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the crew potentially sacrificing themselves to save everybody else.
Oh, yep.
Yep, that's quite a theme.
The utter overconfidence of the villain.
I think that extends beyond Star Trek and maybe even beyond science fiction, maybe just to all fiction.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, the ultimate smugness of the villain.
Oh, yeah. We did get new uniforms. That
Yes.
seems like an important thing in every version of Star Trek.
Yep.
I'm not confident that the uniform cut works for Rock Talk as the giant rock or for Jankum. It was a little bit ill-fitting on the two of them, but it worked pretty well for Dal and for Gwen. And the color scheme looked pretty good on Zero. And obviously Janeway, whatever. She can wear whatever she wants. She looked great.
Yeah.
But didn't quite work for the giant rock. It didn't seem like it would be comfortable.
Probably true. Although we were interested in the uniforms, so we went back and watched Chakotay's uniform when he appeared in the holo recordings.
Right.
And that's different again.
Yeah. I had this weird feeling that Chakotay was wearing that same uniform, but it was different.
Yeah. It was different from the other Starfleet uniforms.
It was.
So it's another new style of uniform.
Yeah.
So I wonder if these are cadet uniforms that they're wearing?
I think that's a good guess since they were all the same.
Yeah. And the next thing, the Kobayashi Maru reference from Dal.
Yep. Now it's just a part of their normal speech.
Yeah.
They're using all the Star Trek lingo.
Right.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Maybe the most Star Trek moment of the entire episode was the Janeway speech.
Oh.
When she talked about Starfleet and how what they were doing was so Starfleet.
Yes. Just perfect.
Yep.
So a lot of great Star Trekkiness.
Yep, for sure. All right, well, let's go into ratings. What is your rating for this week's episode?
10 out of 10, just a great Star Trek episode. The show continues to just hit all the high points that I love.
Yeah, I really liked it. We watched it multiple times. And even
Yeah.
while we were trying to take notes, I was so distracted by watching it that I was forgetting that I was supposed to be taking notes. So I absolutely enjoyed it. There were many things about it that I loved and things that we've talked about, but maybe especially the secret plan that there's something that they're preparing for. And when they did that whole thing where they were all screaming and then Dal said, okay, you can stop the screaming. And they all stopped. I was like, okay, let's get into this story. I like it.
They really did have a handle on everything.
Absolutely. But I do not like a cliffhanger. And
Yeah.
now I got to wait a whole week. So until I know how the whole thing wraps up, it's very hard for me to give it
Yeah,
a rating.
yeah.
So I'm with Brian from Colorado. I think I will also give it an 8 because very enjoyable, very entertaining episode, but you got to stick the landing. Once they stick the landing, then we can talk about the rating for the full 2-episode arc.
Okay. I'm just out there right now and I'm just enjoying it.
10-0, 10-0.
It could be that.
These are James's scores. Well, this is why on Rebinge Deep Space Nine, we don't do rating numbers. We do thumbs up and thumbs down. It's much easier to say, yes, I liked it. No, I didn't like it. Although we've also debated on that. We've been stuck in the middle on a few things.
And I have changed my mind on ratings.
Well, you do that with movies too, where you'll watch a movie and then 5 years later, you change your opinion on the same movie without having seen it again.
Exactly.
It's like you've thought about it for 5 years.
It might not be 5 years, but a length of time will have expired between.
Yeah, it might even just be a couple days. That's true. All right. Well, before we wrap up, I want to let you know that James and I can always be reached on RebingeIt@gmail.com and also on Twitter and Instagram @RebingeIt.
And don't forget, you can listen to our Deep Space Nine podcast called Rebinge Deep Space Nine, available everywhere you get your podcasts, and on YouTube on the RebingeIt channel.
And you can find this Prodigy podcast on the Talk Through Media YouTube channel. To contact us for Prodigy and even be a part of the show if you'd like, you can join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts. You can also leave audio and written feedback at talkthroughmedia.com/feedback, or you can simply email us at rebingeit@gmail.com. So lots of ways to get to us if you want to be part of the podcast.
So hit those keys, people. That's it for this week. Come back next week to hear the RebingeIt crew take on the season finale of Star Trek Prodigy.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.